that we've been continuing to buy back shares during the period, but also balancing that quite carefully. So between the share buybacks while the discount remains wide and where we can capture value for shareholders, but also making new investments where we committed about £88 million during the 6-month period.
Hello, you're watching Proactive. Joining me is Pantheon International Partner and co-manager of PIPS, Charlotte Morris. Charlotte, very good to speak with you again. How's the performance been in the reported 6-month period?
Yeah, it's great to be here. So it continues to be a somewhat challenging macroeconomic environment, and we've seen that reflected in the performance over the 6-month period. So our portfolio increased modestly in terms of value with a 3.2% increase over the 6 months. But at the underlying level, we've continued to see good performance with valuation uplifts across all investment types, stages, geographies, which I guess really reflects the high quality managers that we've been backing and a tilt at the company level towards resilient sectors that have really helped Pantheon International withstand that kind of current macro environment. So the valuation gains have been boosted in part by the exits that we've seen across the portfolio that have generated uplifts to the last valuation before a sale of about 26%. So those valuation gains translated into overall NAV performance of about 2.3% once you take into account the impact of expenses and FX. So that was a little bit muted, but in line with what we've seen in the listed private equity sector. And we should just note also actually that we are reporting on a 6-month period, but private equity is very much a long-term asset class. So, we should view this period in the context of long-term performance that for Pantheon International has been around 13% over the last 5 or 10 years.
Charlotte, what have been the highlights during the period?
Yeah, it's been a busy 6 months. We took the opportunity to right size our revolving credit facility. So we decreased that from £500 million equivalent to 400 million, with flexibility around that to increase it up to 700. And at the end of the period, that meant that net debt drawn across the revolving credit facility and the private placement notes was about 9.2% net debt to NAV, which is in line with the board's guidance that they don't expect that to exceed 10% under normal market conditions. In terms of corporate strategy, we implemented the capital allocation policy. That was a sort of natural follow-on from the large share buyback program that we completed during the last financial year. And this has meant that we've been continuing to buy back shares during the period, but also balancing that quite carefully. So between the share buybacks while the discount remains wide and where we can capture value for shareholders, but also making new investments where we committed about £88 million during the 6-month period. Another highlight came after the 6-month period, actually, but still before we're speaking today, with the appointment of 3 new non-executive directors. All of them come from private equity backgrounds, so deep experience, expertise in private equity, and specifically with very relevant experience in direct investing. So obviously for us at Pantheon International, that's really important because around 55% of the portfolio is in direct investments. So that's great for us as the manager at Pantheon. It augments the range of skills that the board bring to their governance of Pantheon International. The board's also set up a strategy subcommittee, really to just sort of refine investment strategy, but also to review the changing market landscape, to articulate our North Star, I guess, to capture the demands of investors who these days are seeking a lot of things, alongside good management of risk-adjusted returns. They're also interested in transparency and trust, and that's going to be a key part of that sort of strategy subcommittee's work.
In a statement, the chair talks about step 3 of the 3-step corporate program. What will that involve?
Yeah, so as a reminder, steps one and two were a bit more transactional in nature. So I mentioned earlier that we had the £200 million share buyback program and the capital allocation policy that naturally followed on from that. We've obviously been investing in line with that policy across the buybacks and the new investments. Step three is really now about stimulating demand for Pantheon International's shares. And that really is with an aim to narrow discount in the medium term. So we truly believe that we offer with Pantheon International an attractive way of accessing private equity. So for a long time, we've been committed to broadening awareness of private equity, really helping to dispel some of the misconceptions actually around what private equity is and what it isn't, more importantly. And just ensuring that Pantheon International in particular, as an investment trust, is a relevant means for investors to get private equity exposure. So there are a number of elements to step three. But the refinement of strategy and kind of renewed purpose around our North Star that I was just talking about is one important part. The second element involves getting the message out there into the market, and that will involve a marketing plan to really share our belief in private equity and in the way that Pantheon International in particular offers access to private equity for a wide range of potential investors. So really getting out there to share that message, a little bit of an education piece there around what private equity really is doing and how that is an important part of an investor's portfolio, and thinking about sort of asset allocation, that it's a great piece to have within your portfolio. So to that end, we've engaged a marketing agency. They've completed a sort of discovery phase, and we at Pantheon as the manager have been working hard on this element alongside the board's marketing committee, and we expect to keep working hard on that continuing throughout this year.
Charlotte, your outlook for the coming months?
Well, I sort of alluded to this at the start. I think the last 2 years have really seen lower deal activity, and that has led to subdued exit activity and kind of lower distribution rates across the private equity industry more broadly. And we've obviously seen that reflected in our own portfolio during this 6-month period, but also going back a bit longer before that. We are starting to see signs of a change in the environment and a gradual return of market confidence, and that is creating a more conducive environment for deals. There's always a lag in private equity because once you have a bit more confidence returning and deals are launched, you have to have the time to underwrite those deals, diligence them before actually you start to see the tick up in actual activity levels. But in 2024, global M&A deal value increased about 15% year on year. And even just within private equity deal volume in 2024, that increased about 11% from 2023. So sentiment is becoming more positive as the interest rate environment has been improving, inflation has stabilized. I think if we see further cuts in interest rates, that's likely to stimulate more deal making. Although our expectation is that you sort of stay a little bit higher for longer. We're probably not going back to those sort of zero type interest rate environment. But against this backdrop, we're starting to see exits picking up, and we expect there to be a gradual return to more normal deal activity levels over the coming years. So it will take a little bit of time, but we're seeing some green shoots there. And PIP specifically, Pantheon International has been deliberately designed to be an all-weather portfolio. It has a track record of navigating different economic cycles, and it's outperformed public markets over the long term. So we're cautiously optimistic that we'll see signs of a gradual recovery in the coming months and years.
Well, Charlotte, thank you very much for taking the time to speak to us on a very busy day for you. Good speaking with you.
Pleasure.
That's Charlotte Morris, Pantheon International Partner and co-manager of PIP.